as the country's new military leader. But it is a development that has spurred regional power ECOWAS to move against it. Hours after the junta announced its takeover, ECOWAS chair and Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, condemned the coup and called on the coup plotters to immediately release the democratically elected president. The coup would be the seventh on the continent, the fourth in West Africa, and the closest to Nigeria. A week later, ECOWAS convened an extraordinary meeting in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where they not only again condemned the coup, but also announced sanctions on Niger Republic. Among the sanctions itemized in ECOWAS communique were the closure of all air and land borders against Niger, the imposition of a no-fly zone over the country, freezing of Niger's accounts in the West African Economic Union, as well as in regional banks, and an ultimatum to the junta to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum as president. Bazoum, still under close surveillance by the junta, shared ECOWAS' decision, calling on the regional power as well as other foreign powers to ensure his reinstatement. ECOWAS also began considering military intervention in Niger. ECOWAS' 7-day ultimatum expires soon, and there's been no word on what happens next. Security consultant Dr. Oluwaseyi Adetayo says ECOWAS options are now limited.
When you are responding to coup d'etat or to unconstitutional government in a country, there are four ways or four approaches to this. One is for you to make a very hard, rejection. Another one is a soft rejection. The third one is soft acceptance, and the last one is hard acceptance.
But other analysts call for caution. The Nigerian junta last week condemned ECOWAS sanctions as inhumane, and the Mali and Burkina Faso juntas say any military intervention by ECOWAS will be seen as a declaration of war.
I thought we should be more circumspect in deciding military actions, particularly given the fact that in the last 10 or so years, our own military have had issues trying to resolve the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast. And as of today, the Nigerian military, I think it's in 32 out of the 36 states. So already our military is overstretched.
Later in the week, on the streets of the Nigerian capital, Niamey, supporters of the junta protested ECOWAS sanctions, celebrated the evacuation of foreign nationals from the country, and the 63rd anniversary of Niger's independence from France. The self-declared new leader of Niger says the junta will not bow to pressure to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. General Abdurrahman Tichani later said Niger is on a transitional path to democratic elections. In his statewide televised address, he said they'd always been humble enough to listen to all parties concerned and open to dialogue, so that once everyone's emotions have subsided, they can work together to create the conditions for a peaceful transition, leading in a short and reasonable time to general elections. So ideally, it does appear the junta has a plan to restore civilian rule. Whether it will include Mohamed Bazoum is yet to be decided. The onus now is on ECOWAS to explore more options to convince the junta out of power, or unilaterally prepare for war, not only with Niger, but with Mali and Burkina Faso, which have declared support and allegiance to each other. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
All right, so joining us to discuss this matter and its implications for Nigeria, above all else, and the sub-region, we've got Dapo Obire, President, Good Leadership Advocacy for Africa, His Excellency Mohamed Hassan, former Nigeria ambassador to the United States and Syria. He's also an economist. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We also do have His Excellency Joseph Ayalogu, who is former permanent representative to the UN in Geneva. He's also former Nigeria's ambassador to Switzerland. He joins us virtually. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program as well today.
Yes, good morning, family.
Right. Let's start with you. Concerning this particular matter, it's giving lots of people concern. Now the deadline, as we know it, has elapsed, and the big question now will be, what next? And all eyes are on Nigeria. The Secretariat is here. Nigeria chairs the commission. So you've been keeping tabs on this matter. Tell us, what do you think of this?
Well, Chamberlain, it's a peculiar situation. It's a sad moment anyway. For a couple of reasons. Coups are no good because they generally cause domestic tension and also international tension. They tend to expose countries and regions to external influences that may not be always in their interest. But what makes it even more worrisome now is that our president is on the eye of the storm because he heads the sub-regional group, the ECOWAS. And incidentally, he had just taken up the mantle of chairmanship. And incidentally, again, he made a commitment, made specific references to coups, and incidentally, again, shortly after, there was a coup. So he hasn't been given time for a break at all to get a grip on things, and now he has to, something has to happen. Things are happening. They gave a 7-day ultimatum, which I would say that probably they needn't or shouldn't have been the way to go, but that's the way they went. It's a short ultimatum. It has passed. Of course, while that ultimatum lasted, the coupists have done what we wouldn't say would be unexpected. They have also picked up the gauntlet to warned everybody to stay off. Garnered support from some other countries in the sub-region, Mali, Burkina Faso, even Chad, even some of the neighbors, Algeria, to advise that there should be no attempt to impose a military action against Niger. These are all forms of escalation. We also hear that some Russian troops, the Wagner troops, definitely Russian troops, are out there. Russia, as a country itself, has also warned against any kind of intervention. So this puts ECOWAS on a little bit of a fix. And one of the two things I would say is that as a country, Nigeria, because we are in the eye of the storm, not just because we chair the ECOWAS, but we're also neighbors of Niger, and we have enjoyed very close relationship with that country. We are almost brothers. We don't have in our DNA as a country the tendency to fight our brothers. In fact, it's contrary to our foreign service guidelines and directives. Since 1960, we became a country. We try to maintain good relations with our neighbors. In fact, that's part of the key component of what we call the concentric style formation of our foreign policy objective. Our immediate neighbors are important in the sense that they have an impact on our security, on our economy, and so many things. So you must be friendly. It's our policy to be friendly with our neighbors. We have shown it as a country in so many ways, at various times. When we had a problem with Cameroon over Bekasi, we did the right thing. We went to arbitration. We lost. We accepted it, even though there was a specific gain we could have at least put a finger on.
All right.
In this case, there is none. So we as a country don't want or don't need to go to war with Niger. Our option is, as usual, to manage the situation as friends, as big brothers, and so on. So that's one thing. Against that, of course, you have the ECOWAS, the gauntlet that the ECOWAS has put down. Even then, still, ECOWAS could still manage the situation to avoid wars.
Right.
Let's forget what you will hear from Europe and every other inputs. We must decide on our own that we don't want to weaponize or militarize our region beyond what it is now.
Okay, let me bring you to His Excellency Mohammed Hassan. You know, there's so many twists and perspectives to this matter and dimensions as well. The foreign component, and then the fact that the president, upon assumption of office, then he chairs ECOWAS, then 1 week ultimatum, which is elapsed, then we hear that power cut to Niger Republic. So one wonders, what exactly is our foreign policy when it comes to this kind of matter? And I know that diplomats, you'll always also advise that would be diplomatic and not hold the path of the option of not excluding force to restore this. But some narratives too, equally coming from Niger Republic. Could it be, would it be a fair comment to say, look, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs probably play a huge role in the decision the president has taken here? Because some will say this may not have been unilateral decisions. It must have been from advice from the ministry. And then ECOWAS themselves, perhaps, who knows, there's been several coups in the region before he became president.
Right.
So there's been several plans. So how would you place this in terms of what would you recommend we do next moving forward?
Good. What we do next at this present moment, we just have to stick to the advice being given by most Nigerians.
Most Nigerians?
Most Nigerians.
Most Nigerians don't have information that the president will have.
Yeah, but the information the president will have will not be different from what Nigerians feel they want, because he is there to serve the people.
But is it just about what Nigerians want?
No, it's one of those. Okay. You see, in foreign policy, the internal dynamics within a country determines what a country pursues as a foreign policy, amongst other things. So we have here, everybody is talking and everybody is saying that let's pursue the diplomatic option. And the idea of giving an independent country, a self-sustaining entity, 7 days is just too short. They would have taken, let's say, a month, and we apply other measures like sanctions, economic sanctions, political sanctions, and guard the Nigerians on what we expect and what we want to be done and what ECOWAS want to be done. But you see, even during the time we drove this gentleman away in Gambia, the approach was very gentle, and the final analysis, the guy went. In as much as, because we don't have, 7 days is just too short for any action to take place. We have to mobilize, we have to, economic mobilization, military mobilization, public opinion, and all that. It's not enough.
Are you talking about President Yahya Jammeh?
Yes.
Of the Gambia?
Yeah. So we need enough time if actually we are heading...
So 1 month will be enough time?
Yeah, it's better than 7 days.
So 2 things. coalition of, I think the Northern Senators did say they rejected the military option.
That's right.
And then another group says, don't rush into war.
That's
so
right.
there are two different things.
Yes.
So rejecting it entirely and leaving it as an option after several. But in fairness to the ECOWAS too, they didn't say it is military option first. They sent diplomats. They sent people to go in there and discuss.
After the pronouncement, then diplomats went. Diplomats didn't go before the pronouncement.
Okay, you think it should have been the other way around?
Yes.
What pronouncement are you referring to?
The option of war.
It was included in all of the gamut of the statements that they made. Yes, it was
included. Yes. But immediately that pronouncement was made, it should be followed by diplomatic incursions. But nothing was done until days later. So it speaks of deficiencies.
No, but Ambassador, when you say nothing was done, I thought it takes, you put a team together, the team prepares to leave.
Yes.
So what kind of immediacy were you
So
asking?
you see, that's where I said 7 days is too short.
Too short. Okay, so, but I think it's very important because I know that on Saturday there were very strong indications. We do know that if Nigeria is ever to go into any type of battle with any country, they need to get the permission of the Nigerian Senate. And because the president did write a letter to the Nigerian Senate, rumor was rife that the president had sought the permission of the Senate to go to war. The Senate had to clarify.
That's right.
That there was no such thing. I think I'm going to read. They say they recognize that the president did not ask for approval of the National Assembly to go to war in Niger as erroneously reported. Rather, he expressed a wish to solicit the support of the National Assembly in the successful implementation of the ECOWAS resolutions. I didn't know that the president needed to get their support as well in that respect, but I mean, that's what the Senate is clarifying to us after 2 hours behind closed doors.
Yes.
But let me come to you. We've seen certain visuals of the reactions of Nigerians in terms of the sanctions that have been imposed, the lack of electricity. We understand that about 70% of Niger's electricity is supplied by Nigeria. We've also seen the military on the streets, well, at least visuals of people believed to be their own military people, you know, showing their own show of force and their strength and how prepared they're ready to go to war. And also some protests against Nigeria's president. Some people have said, well, that will be inevitable considering the fact that we've taken their light and he's also the head of ECOWAS. But do you think that right now we're also managing to turn the heat? Because ideally, what I think ECOWAS and perhaps Nigeria is trying to do is ensure that the people are able to, you know, turn the heat on their own leaders to say, look, step down and reinstate the right person. But it does appear that some, I mean, if we were to go by those reports, we're being seen as the enemy. Is this really working?
Well, Mark, this issue is an internal issue in Niger Republic. And when ECOWAS made that pronouncement, don't forget that internally there could be some grievances between even the citizenry and the government in place. So it is also possible that the people are not pleased with the style of governance or what is happening in their country. And taking the president out became a kind of a welcome development to them. And now you're trying to stop that process. They see you as enemy. But don't forget that ECOWAS is a body. And there are treaties, there are founding treaties that form the ECOWAS. There are protocols. Democracy, there are protocols of democracy and good governance in the formation of ECOWAS. And ECOWAS will not just sit down as a body to allow unconstitutional government to establish itself it's not proper.
So it's a very dangerous, it's a very interesting, or will I say it's a very delicate mix.
Yes.
Would you say that we have understood the internal workings of what is happening in Niger? If the people are happy, if they are unhappy, before trying to intervene?
This is why ECOWAS as a body needs to critically and thoroughly investigate what the issues are. And you can only know this by applying the diplomatic measures. It is only when this fails, at the extreme, it's even there in the treaty, at only extreme situation that military intervention should be, options should be taken. Mm-hmm. But right now, we will continue to approach the situation the diplomatic way. We need to bring the people to the table, both the junta, the government, and some even civil society. We'll bring them to the table and have a proper discussion to know what is going on.
Now, some people will say that's a very delicate mix. I mean, because they say no matter how dissatisfied you are with the government, there must be a legitimate way to, remove that government from power. I don't know, what price we're willing to pay. But let me go to Ambassador Ayalugo, who is still with us via Zoom. I'd like to ask you, because some people have also said this is not really about, it's not about the president, or it's about resisting colonial powers. I don't know whether you agree with them. People have said that if you look at the countries that have been affected, all of them are francophone countries. We've seen that people are beginning, those countries are beginning to resist the influence of France and on their countries, and that this is actually a statement in that respect. What are we really walking here? Because on the one hand, ECOWAS wants to defend democracy. On the other hand, the question is, what sort of democracy are we trying to defend here? How delicate do you think this is?
Well, so thank you, Mukwe. Well, it's quite delicate, of course. There are two contrasting issues here. ECOWAS wants to defend democracy, and that is in its statute books. But ECOWAS is not taking the full approach in defending democracy. It sees defense of democracy only from whether a coup happens or not, and it waits till a coup happens before it begins to process the defense of democracy. There are so many inputs into defending democracy. Why have we asked? Why is it that for instance, in Europe, nobody does the coup and so on, but we always have coups around in our region, and we say we want to defend democracy, but we can't defend democracy ignore the needs and wills and expectation of the people and the conduct of the leaders while in governance. So ECOWAS must find a way of doing that, of really addressing this matter, not waiting till a coup and then they rush off and spend money and spend goodwill in fighting your neighbors, people in your region. It's not good. The other aspect of whether there are foreign, yes, whether they are the coupists or people who are agitating are doing that because they want to deal with colonialism or neo-colonialism. Yes, at least with the French, that is definitely the situation, because you see the French didn't really decolonize. They just played out something, made you feel like flag decolonization. That was what happened. It never transformed into something that gave the other their colonies freedom. Initially, it appeared it was nice and simulation. Oh, you are French, a Frenchman in Côte d'Ivoire or whatever. But it's beginning to tell that it is not the case. You go to quite a number of these countries, including Niger, you find that the standard of living is very different. So it's not even a case that the Frenchman in the Nigerian who is made to feel that he's a Frenchman. He's not really a Frenchman because his standard of living is poor. Now, I would also bring up an issue internally, and that seems to be the case with many of the West African countries. The structures for expressing opposition is not often there. Many countries have this presidential system, winner takes all. The president suddenly begins to act like a dictator. There's no structured opposition. Like for instance, in the UK, at least you have both the press, a paid opposition party paid to voice the other opinion that is derived from the will of the people, and so on. The media, even the parties have a way of calling whoever is leading to order. But we don't have it in most of these countries. So at the end of the day, the president, whoever he is, rules, governs, ignores whatever is the interest of the people, and suddenly the only entity that finds that it can call that president to order is the army. So,
Ambassador, sorry to interrupt you, but some people will say that was never democracy in the very first instance if there was an absence of opposition. But let me quickly take you on, Ambassador Hassan. Sorry, Ambassador Yalogo, let me quickly pose this one.
If they say so, then that is a problem. It's a problem.
Indeed, it is. Well, but let me quickly take this one to Ambassador Hassan. And this is about, the fact that we've taken electricity away from Niger. Some people also said that there are underlying problems as well with, because there have been questions about whether there could be a retaliation for that with the River Niger running through Niger Republic and coming all the way to Nigeria. And there have been questions as to whether or not, Niger could build a dam. And then it also emerged that actually Niger had actually started a dam, and this response was long overdue. I don't know whether does this have anything to do with the current sanctions we're imposing as well?
Yeah, it has something to do with the current sanctions because in 2018, the president then in Niger, the city of Niamey is River Niger divides into two equal halves or whatever. So it runs within Niger for a long time, for a long period before it comes to Nigeria. So it was in 1963 that agreement was made when we were trying to build the Kainji Dam. So Benin Republic, Niger, an agreement was signed between them that we will provide electricity to them if they abide not to dam the River Niger. That agreement has been there. I don't think it was revoked. And it also went into the River Niger Basin Commission, including so many other countries. So this is an arrangement that was sacrosanct, was there. But Niger has been trying to indirectly, to directly or through some other means to have that dam built. Maybe on the prompting of other countries, we don't know. But they tried in 2018 and was stopped. And now with this electricity
issue,
I don't see any reason why.
But there are reports that they are currently building one.
Yeah, they started. Yeah, they started in 2018, and it was kind of halted. But now, I don't see any reason why they won't.
Do you think that we run the risk of mixing multilateral and bilateral issues together?
That is where you see we don't have kind of an expertise, because people that have institutional memory should be there to guide and to analyze the implications of what will be the outcome of these things. It's not just to wake up one morning and said, we do this, we do that. Because even, coups, they always say we maintain agreements that has been entered to before then. Now we are in a flux.
All right, let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. You know, one of the questions that naturally comes to mind, and let me take this to our guest who is on Zoom, Ambassador. You know, one of the questions, the issues that naturally comes to my mind, and you would understand this, you and the Ambassador in our Abuja studio, is the people. At the end of the day, and one of the reports that we've read, and I think Mark also referenced the fact that at the end of the day, the people have a say in who governs them and how they are governed. Would you say then, you know, from what you know and what understanding that has come to us all, that the people are being significantly factored in all of these things? At the end of the day, you know, this whole conversation about war and all those things, who is benefiting? Is it the people really? Everyone knows the consequences of a war. We want to protect democracy, but at the same time, at what cost? What are the dynamics that you think are at play here? And what are the complexities and the delicate situations that ECOWAS, and especially Nigeria, which borders Niger across 7 states, have to consider very, very strongly?
Well, I believe that in spite of our responsibility to respect and support the ECOWAS protocols and what we've already signed on to, I also strongly believe that our domestic policy is almost superior to that when they clash, if there's a clash, as there is in this case. Our domestic policy is that we have to be friendly with our neighbors. We have to be friendly. That's part of the concentric structure of our foreign policy that we've always mentioned and said and defined. In that case, we're supposed to wonder, take into consideration what is the interest of Niger, not necessarily the interest of the Nigerian leaders, but the interest of the Nigerian people. This is why it is important to write. We don't wait for things to happen. We should begin to peer review. We should have had that long ago to see, was the president of Niger doing right with the people? What do the people feel? But from evidence, there is an indication that there is something that's been going wrong, that the coup didn't just start off. I know that people are in the streets complaining and saying that they want the coup. Maybe it is contrived, but deep down, we also have stories that people feel that there's been a lack of so many things and they're not getting good leadership. So bilaterally, we must consider all these things. That is why if you go and apply sanction, cut off their light and all that, it's almost like another act of war. I believe that ECOWAS, and especially because we lead the ECOWAS, should begin with a protocol of peaceful management of this issue, because it's in our own interest anyway, in our own national interest to do so, to at least say, after the initial, vocalization that we don't like coups, then we go and ask you, what was it about? Let's talk and all that. Once you start throwing rattling sabers, and then after which you now go to send delegations. That's not how we learned the conflict management, because you now, at this point, you have already made an enemy out of yourself, and they won't want to listen to you, which is what's been happening. And they look around, they are not the only country. There is Mali, there is Chad, there is so.
I know there's a lot to unbundle, but I'm afraid we're out of time, so I'll just get, gentlemen, your concluding thoughts here. Mr. Biri, when we hear Ambassador Yalago talk about we have to be friends with our neighbors, but this is not of Nigeria. This is ECOWAS's decision. So two distinctive things there. And when Ambassador Hassan also said, look, they started building the dam and stopped. So, and in comparison with the declaration of war by taking off electricity, so that act alone, starting and stopping, isn't that itself a clear violation of at least the agreements that we had? So in terms of advising, what should we be doing? How should ECOWAS, what should we be doing now moving forward?
Moving forward on this matter, I think ECOWAS needs to look inward into the decisions that they have taken so far. Because one of the reasons why Nigeria take off cut off the power from Niger is in line with economic sanctions, right? To see if that could affect the change of mind of those who had perpetrated this act in Niger. But at the same time, I don't think that should come first before the diplomatic activities. I still insist, in the quest for good governance, there is need to assess what the issues are. There are people that the Niger listen to, okay, which we are aware, and we are sure that if such people are drafted.
Okay. All right, Ambassador, we need to go. Let's get your concluding thought on this matter. Do you think that both the Senate, Nigerians, do we actually see that, can we draw a distinction between Nigeria and ECOWAS in all our dealings? Do you think that is clear enough?
Yeah, we can, but in this case it's a bit difficult because one, our president is the chairman of ECOWAS, and we can decide, it's our prerogative. Once a decision is being made at the international level, we can say no. Our inputs will weigh, because if we decide we're not going for war, we'll do the diplomatic initiatives and everything, nobody will say no for us. Nobody.
But other countries are not puppets, are they?
Yeah,
other ECOWAS countries.
But in ECOWAS, Nigeria is king.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we have to thank you for coming on. Odakpo Obire, President, Good Leadership Advocacy for Africa. His Excellency Mohammed Hassan, former Nigeria's ambassador to US and Syria, also an economist. We've also had His Excellency Joseph Ayologo, former permanent representative to UN in Geneva, former Nigeria's ambassador to Switzerland. Thank you all for your contributions this morning. We do have some messages, do we?
We do, quite a few of them. Let me say quite a number. Abura Kenneth is an email, says, I'm against military intervention, for war has never solved any problems. At the same time, I do not support coup d'etat. Democracy, as far as I'm concerned, remains the best system of governance. Hence, it's the only system that, to a certain extent, allows the exercise of people's rights. Let the coup leaders and ECOWAS think Africa first, above their ambitions.
Well, Hussein says Nigeria should be careful in leading the onslaught against the Niger Republic, even as the head of ECOWAS. More of diplomacy should be adopted in resolving the crisis. For the ministerial screening, I wish the Senate can conclude the assignment in a few days so that the cabinet can begin work in earnest.
Yes, eyes on the ball. Take a look at this tweet from Festus Akimboyewa. The rift between Governor Obaseki and his deputy is a sign that the race for the 2024 governorship seat has begun in earnest. But it will be eccentric to change the deputy governor now, as it may lead to the political demise of both the governor and his deputy. They must quickly reconcile and focus on governance. Edo people expect their governor and his deputy to conduct themselves properly.
Well, we see your tweets as well, Olagunju Oladele, but unfortunately we are completely out of time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I'll borrow the words of Festus. Let's conduct ourselves properly, all right, wherever we find ourselves today. I'm Kayode Okikiola.
Well, Hussein says, God bless Nigeria. I say an amen to that. I'm Mark Yusuf.
And I am Chamberlain who said goodbye.